12 Faces of Sober Speaks podcast. We back at it. Episode 54, part 2. Martin is sharing a very, very eye-opening, experience that he had in terms of having to deal with a fatal crash, as well as doing 17 years behind them walls. But the most important thing about that is that he not only accepted the mistakes that he made, but he also bettered himself. And I forgot to ask you this before we stopped the interview. But did you ever make an amends, or did you reach out to the family of those individuals? I don't know if they were related, or how was that? Because I think that that's also important too.
No, that's a good question. So the law prohibits us from trying to make contact with the victim's family members. Okay. They have the right to contact us, however. Okay. And so at my sentencing, they were there, obviously, and much to my pleasure and surprise, they actually had said that they had forgiven me. That they knew this was not something intentional, and that a part of them felt sorry for my family because I was going to go away for a really long time. My family was going to miss me and things like that. So that gave me some sense of peace. Obviously, I wanted them to forgive me. It was actually at the beginning of the pandemic. I'm in my cell. It's the beginning of the pandemic in March of 2020, and I get a letter from somebody I had not known. But the second I saw the last name of the person, my heart dropped because I recognized that last name, right? It was the daughter of one of my victims. And it was just a brief little notepad letter. And she just explained who she was. And she said, during this time with the pandemic, I'm worried about you and the guys inside. Let me know if there's anything I can send you, like toilet paper or food or money, or, she was just so thoughtful and accommodating. She didn't mention the crash at all. She didn't, nothing about that. She's just, I'm worried about you guys. Let me know if there's anything I can do. So I took that opportunity to write like a 6-page letter front and back, explaining that I made that promise at my sentencing, all those years ago, saying I would do everything I could to make amends and pay it forward and get the message. And I said, I chronicled everything that I had done up to that point. I said, I'm going to be getting out here in a year and a half at that point, and I'm going to continue to speak at panels and things like that. I hope to maybe see you at one of them. So we exchanged a few letters back and forth. She was so she was proud of what I had done. She was glad to know that I wasn't just giving lip service at the sentencing to look good for the media or the judge or the families, right? This was embedded in me. I was committed wholeheartedly. She was very happy to hear that. I haven't heard from her in a couple years, and I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay with that. I felt like hearing it all those years later and having the brief interaction I did with her as a daughter of one of my victims kind of gave me that closure that I didn't even really know I needed, but I guess I did because it meant a lot to me. Mm-hmm. And so, but being on supervision now, you are precluded from reaching out to the families.
Oh, really? Okay, that's something I learned something new today.
Yeah.
Wow. So now you're free. You paid your debt to society, and so what was life like once you got out? I'm not going to quote no rates of recidivism. Excuse me on that one. That's the first time I had to use that.
It's a tough word. It's a tough word.
Yeah. So now, how was that in terms of, because you're 17 years of your life is totally different. You know what I'm saying? Technology, social media, Facebook. Yeah. Like I shared with you earlier, my cousin was calling me. After doing over 30 years, I'm still trying to figure out this Facebook thing. I'm trying to figure out this, like, man, just start hitting buttons.
You're right. You'll figure it out.
And right. So how, everybody's going to ask you, quote Scarface, the rapper, You know, he had one of his songs, what are you gonna do when you get out, dog? I don't know, man. Just don't come back, and or yeah, you'll be back type thing. And not saying that was the mindset of the COs or even other inmates, because clearly, like I said, you gained a lot of respect because you had you had time to do, but you made use of the time. So now you're out. You've been programmed to one thing, but now you got to come out to a whole new world, even though it's the US, but it's a whole new situation. And different presidents and so on and so forth. So how was that for you to now be free, but you still owe the whatever, you still owe somebody a little bit extra time. So how was that for you initially?
Yeah, as you can imagine, it was somewhat overwhelming because I'm watching TV, I'm seeing everything politically that's changing in the country and all the division and things like that, and I'm seeing the riots after the George Floyd and the pandemic, and I'm seeing all this stuff, but we're secluded, right? We're living in our own little community within prison. It's like a whole little world in there. We have jobs, we have recreation, we have visits, we have phone calls. Like, it's our whole little enclave that's totally secluded from the rest of the world. So you can only prepare yourself so much until you're actually in it, right? And so I knew technology was just going to overwhelm me. Like, I wasn't that technologically savvy before I went in, so I knew getting out. I mean, like, when I went in, we had the little Nokia phone, didn't have a camera. Like, if you had a phone and your camera back in '03, like, you were really doing it,
Right.
right? And now it's like videos and cameras, and so I wanted to get the most simple, basic phone that I could navigate and figure out. And so everybody said, well, the iPhone is kind of more user friendly than the Android, and all the things are kind of preset for you. So I went with that. I went with Apple products, got a MacBook and all that good stuff. But I figured things out pretty well, right? I'm very adaptable. And so obviously having my fiance with me, literally, kind of, showing me everything and taking my hand and walking me through this and that, like even going to the store, we had gone to the store, and just like the colors and the signs and the advertisements, and it's a bunch of stimuli coming at you. There's little kids, and I didn't realize this, that like when I heard a baby cry in the store, and like everybody's looking at the baby, wanting the baby to be quiet, right? And it hit my ears in a totally different way that I didn't expect, because I realized that in all those years I had not heard that sound. And so it was a welcome sound for me to hear that baby wailing when everybody else. And so your perspective on life is totally shifted forever, right? But I'll say I was mentally and physically exhausted that first week. And I did some stuff. I got my ID, and I, signed up with a bank account, and, the basic stuff, saw my PO and got my conditions and blah, blah, blah. But like, I didn't do a whole heck of a lot. And I was just drained at the end of the day, because you're taking in so much stimuli that you're not used to, and it just warps you. But I made it a point with my fiance. She came to stay with me because I was in Oregon at the time. She lives out here in PA where I now live. But we made it a point to do like our responsibilities in the first half of the day, and then hang out with family, go out to eat, relax in the latter half of the day. We strategically planned that out, but it was exhausting. It was overwhelming in some parts. Everywhere you go, you have to put in your email. I had never even had an email address, right? They want your email address. They want this, they want that. You got to, every app you download, you got to put in the username and the password. My fiance was like, you better start writing these down, because
Yeah.
you're gonna. So I had to learn the hard way. I'm starting to forget the username and the password and stuff like that. So it was just a lot to adapt to. The clothing, when I went in, we wore baggy. Everything was
Yeah.
baggy,
Big
right?
t-shirts, big pants.
Big t-shirts,
Yeah.
3X t-shirts, right?
Mhm.
And I swore, I'm not wearing nobody's skinny jeans. I'm not doing it. But like, you wear form-fitted stuff. And for me, it felt tight. And I'm like, man, I'm just uncomfortable with this. But it's like, My girlfriend's fiance's like, you look good. Like, and I'll look like everybody else in society. And that's the thing. I didn't want to come out
Not,
looking.
not this guy.
No,
Not this
no.
guy. Nah,
Okay.
my Levi's is still baggy.
Are they?
I still rock cargo shorts. You're not gonna see me with hoochie daddy shorts. Nah,
Not
nah.
happening.
I'm straight.
I hear you,
Mm,
but I didn't want to. I didn't want to walk around like I had a flashing sign saying that I had been in prison almost 20 years, right? So you adapt, you go with, kind of go with the flow. But no, it's been a great ride, man. I've crammed a lot in this last year. I'll be hitting a year on the 28th of this month, so just next week.
my
And
sister's birthday. My sister.
all right, all right.
Well, early congratulations.
I
Early
appreciate that, man. I've made it a point to travel. I've been to Las Vegas. I've been to the Bahamas. Took my first cruise. I've been to Baltimore. I've been to Seattle to see my Oregon Ducks play. I've jumped out of an airplane. I've surfed. I've made it a point to really, and I'll tell you, if I'm being honest, before I got out, I had never lived a sober life and had fun. Every
Mm,
time I was out doing something, I was drinking. And
mm,
so a part of me, as much as I look forward to getting out and living this life and doing these things, a part of me honestly thought that, like, man, life is going to be kind of boring. Like, I wonder if life is going to be boring, not drunk.
mm,
Man, I have had the time of my life.
mm.
Believe me when I say it. And I'm able to remember what I did the next day.
That's
This is
key.
a beautiful thing.
That is
It's
truly
a
key.
beautiful thing.
For real.
So life is great, man. It really is.
Yeah, because and it's interesting because I like, I hate to say it like this, but compared, like military is almost like, you're locked down
Right.
with somewhat of, with a minimal, freedom, because if they pick up the phone at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and they say they need you at the unit, you have to be at the unit and you have to be there within 2 hours. And so I know that when I had got out the military in August of 2015, I was like, what am I going to do with my life? And I had been, I only did 6 years, and I went in, like I said, I went in at 29 going on 30 in 2009. And so for me, it was like, I had a lot of stuff I had to sort out. And for me, it was like, everybody was to go back to work. I'm like, man, nah, I want to go to school. I want to,
Right.
finish this master's degree, because I went initially, I had enrolled at the University of Texas, El Paso in 2014, was working on my master's program. But I ended up going, because I was homeless after about a year, I think, 2016, I ended up being homeless I might say September 1st of 2016, I was homeless in Phoenix. And for the next 2 months, I was in a homeless shelter. And I had went ahead and went back to Minnesota, because that's where my mom, my sister, my nephew, and all that, they live up there. And my mom was like, just go to treatment, see what happens. And I was like, but this wasn't my first stint though. I had did like 3 rehabs in Virginia, Minnesota, all these different places. And so this last time I was like, you know what? Let's just try it. Let's just see and what works. And so what I did is that while I was in treatment, I literally applied to grad school at St. Cloud State University in Minnesota. Same place I got my undergrad from. Got accepted 2 days later. And I was like, all right, this is the inner beginnings of something, but I just don't know what it is.
Right.
And so after that, school, I got out December, I think it was December 15th or December 14th, 2016. I had about a little less than a month before school started. But once school started, went up there, saw my old advisors. Now, mind you, I graduated in 2003. It's 2017. Some of the same advisors was there. First question I asked them, I said, is the South Africa trip still available? Now, mind you, they were doing a trip in 2003. They said, yeah. First trip I did, I studied at Nelson Mandela University.
Wow.
Got a chance to see Nelson Mandela's, the Nobel Peace Prize, the Mercedes that they gave him for that. I went to the Apartheid Museum in Johannesburg, but the school was in Port Elizabeth. And that right there told me that, okay, yeah, this might be, I might be on to something. And then my ex-wife got served divorce papers when I landed in Johannesburg. So I was, you know what, maybe this is it. And so, and hearing your story and hearing that, okay, you made mistakes at a prime age that a lot of people do, a lot of young men and women too. But now you're at a different age and era in life, and now you're trying to make amends and prevent others for having to go down that road. That might be, they might not do 17. It might be something wrong. And like I said, I commend you. And I've said it a few times because I mean it. Because like I said, it could have been me. It could have been anybody watching this that could have made that one mistake. That just drank a little bit too much that night, and then lost lost time of their lives that they could never get back. But you had a plan, you stuck to it, and you did what you had to do. And that's what, like I said, my podcast is the message of it is that regardless of whatever mistakes that we made coming to get to the point where we are today, it's more or less of what you're trying to do, not only today, but what you're trying to do tomorrow.
That's right.
That's right. That to me it hopefully is inspiring. And like I said, I wanted you on here because of the fact that people need to hear it, the raw and uncut, and not no cookie cutter, like, oh well, nah, let's get down to the nitty gritty of what is really going on. So now my next question to you is, like, what what are some, you mentioned, you've traveled, you've gotten a chance to speak, but you forgot to mention, and I did the wrong introduction, I forgot that part, but you've also authored a book. Now let's talk about that. Let me see, did I write down the title? No, I didn't. But if you want to go ahead and plug that, as well as where they can get the book too, so we can make sure that when I air this, I could put it on wherever the website is, so they can purchase the book.
Sure. Yeah, I wrote my memoir while I was still incarcerated in 2010. I published it in 2013. I actually just republished it under a new title and did some updates to it just several months ago. So it's Prison to Purpose Pipeline is the title, and it's obviously available at Amazon and Barnes and Nobles online, things like that. Easiest place is just to go to Amazon and get it. It chronicles my journey from childhood through my addiction and early beginnings of criminal behavior and consequences, and it takes you through the kind of the psychology of what I was going through when I was going through it, and how I justified that problematic behavior back in those younger years. And then the revelations that came later while I was incarcerated. It takes you through the journey of having a prison relationship that now manifested me over 16 years in the making. We're now happily living our lives out here, so they actually can work when they're done the right way. And it's not the culmination of everything that I've gone through, because it stops in 2010 when I got my associate's degree. So I'm sure I'll write a sequel that chronicles, the next 10 to 15 years.
Okay.
But I've gotten great reviews from it. A lot of people see a lot of their lives in it, whether it just be, poor relationships, poor decision making, alcoholism, erroneous thinking, consequences, things like that. I actually wrote a second book. It's a collection of blogs that I wrote. I was a blogger for 3 prison-related websites when I was inside, and I would talk about. So there's 4 different themes in the second book. It's called My Prison Life, a blogger's insights from the inside, and it chronicles my journey of how I was able to adapt to prison, right, coming from the free world and adapting to almost 2 decades in prison. How to maximize the most of your time while in prison, the navigations of a prison relationship and all the lessons and principles I've learned just in, becoming a mature man who's actually ready for a relationship, right? And then the impact of prison on families and the community. So I broke the blogs up into those 4 sections and published that in 2019 as well. So I've got those out there.
That's what's up. Now how has public speaking helped you through your time? I know you mentioned when you were behind the walls that you were speaking as the offender, and now so how is that you transition, you're out here as a free man, and now you can not only speak about what happened leading up to you getting in prison, and to talk about life behind the walls, and now you can also incorporate how life has been afterwards. So how has the public speaking aspect played a role in your life today?
You're right. And again, coming from a really shy kid, it's actually sometimes it's awesome to me that I get the opportunity to speak in these different forums. And because there's no way, if you would have asked me many years ago, are you going to speak to hundreds of people and hopefully thousands of people someday, I would have said there's no way. There's absolutely no way. But it has empowered me, I think, to just walk in confidence and to know that, like, we all have a story, right? Everybody has something valuable to share. Sadly, so many people, for many different reasons, a lot of it, dealing with social anxiety and things like that, will prevent people from telling their story, right? And so I feel that it's a duty and an obligation for me to, again, not just go through the prison term, get out, live the rest of my life, go on as though everything is good. Like, I have a duty and a responsibility to the public because of what I had done. You hear, oh, you repaid your debt to society. Honestly, I see my 17 and a half years as the down payment. I mean, I feel like that was the down payment. And for the rest of my life, I need to be continuing to make those payments, right? Because there's 2 people that I took from this world who can never do that again. They were doing amazing work, right? When I cut their lives short. Right. So public speaking it's been very rewarding. You always have people come up to you and thank you for your message, and you really made them think twice about drinking and driving. But it also gives people who have kind of maybe start to go down the wrong path, it gives them hope that if they turn things around before it's too late, that they can still make so much out of their lives, right? They can still achieve anything they want to achieve. They can aspire to do anything they want to do if they turn it around before it's too late. So just because we have found ourselves down and out for a period of time doesn't mean that we're totally down for the count, right? Might be a standing A count, but you can get back up. Right. And you can continue the fight and actually, turn out to do some really meaningful, productive things.
Now, now it's up to you on if you can answer this question. Now, because it was something that was alcohol related, is it like a strict mandatory thing that you get tested for that now? Like a stipulation of you're on probation, right?
So I'm on, in most states it's called parole. Okay. In Oregon, it's called post-prison supervision.
Okay.
Right. And so it is stipulated across the board, whether it was alcohol related or not, that we can't consume any intoxicants.
Okay.
But for me in particular, like, it's in bold, like, you will not consume alcohol and or, drugs. But here's the thing, they didn't need to stipulate it for me, Kenneth. I've been doing AA for, I started doing it like the previous 6 years before my release. So in prison, I was doing it. I just went to an AA meeting last night. Okay. Like, my recovery, I mean, my job is recovery oriented, right? I'm a substance abuse counselor, right? How can I start talking to people about, getting clean, getting sober, and getting into treatment when I'm not, right? So there need not be any external motivation for me to take it day by day, live, in recovery, practice the principles, things like that.
Okay. Okay. All right. And then the before we close, um, this is what I usually do. Um, I leave I allow the guests to truly leave like a message, and I'm already knowing that your message will be damn good, just from the from what you've shared, and how inspiring the story should be, because no one will truly know what it looks like behind those walls until they get there themselves, regardless of if you get a phone call or you get a letter and say, hey, this is how it is. You won't know until you experience it. I mean, I sat in the jail cell in the Army. I was drunk on duty, was ready to tear somebody up, but wouldn't nobody know how that jail cell looked like unless they went there themselves. So what I usually do is, what message would you want to leave others listening to this podcast today?
Absolutely. So I would not wish prison on my worst enemy. Let me say that. Although I've gained a lot of insight and a lot of knowledge and did a lot of introspection, and it's worked out for me, I would not wish that anybody would have to go through that to turn things around and get their lives back on track. No matter what you have done, no matter where you find yourself in this moment, no matter how bleak life may seem or insurmountable the odds may appear, all hope is not lost. If you reach out for help, you can call the one of the numbers that I work on, the drug and alcohol line, 1-800-273-8255. Myself or somebody else in recovery will connect you to resources in your area, no matter where you are. There's online resources that are totally free. We can get you connected with support groups, counselor, peer mentor, you name it. Please, please, please know that there is help right at your fingertips. Do not give up on yourself. There is a world of opportunity out here if you reach for it. Okay. I don't care what anybody tells you about, oh, well, you're no good, or you've been to prison 3 times, or I don't care what the message is. If you don't give up on yourself, then there is a chance. There is hope. Okay. And there are many, many people out here who want to see you succeed and will be here for you to do so. Okay. Um, I would also just say that we're kind of all in this fight together, man. We all need each other. Nobody gets through this life unscathed alone, right? And the worst thing you can do as somebody who is suffering is to do it in isolation. I know a lot of people, they withdraw, they don't want to be around people, they don't want to burden people with their issues and things like that. We have to do this thing together. We have to do it together. There are people out here who want to see you succeed. Do not give up on yourself. We will not give up on you. And when it comes to drinking and driving, I shouldn't have to say it, but I will. If you know you're going to be out drinking or think there's a chance that you might, make sure you have a plan in place for how you're going to get home before you do so. I will also say, if you are with someone who has been drinking and you know that they have no business driving, it is your responsibility to ensure that they don't. And I don't care how you have to do it, wrestle them to the ground and take their keys, do it. They will thank you in the morning. But do not end up like me and trade the next 17 and a half years of your life for one night of fun. Do not do it.
Big facts. I forgot one thing though. Um, if you can, before we run out of time again, if you could touch on Rock the Bottom podcast, because I definitely want to shout that out as well, and get people over there to take a look at that as well.
I appreciate that. So that podcast, I co-host Rock the Bottom podcast on Apple and Spotify and Anchor and wherever you get your podcasts, with a friend of mine up in Canada. We met as pen pals. She wrote me about 3 years before I had gotten out because I had written an article about grief, and she found it and she reached out to me and we struck up a friendship. It's about talking to people who have hit rock bottom in one way, shape, or form, and how they were able to navigate that rock bottom and actually turn it into a purpose-driven, meaningful life and message and calling, right? The same thing we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
And the stories range from people, women going through brutal rapes to somebody having his son murdered, and I mean, you name it, and it's on there. It's our first season. We're just wrapping up. We have one more episode to finish our first season. But it is awesome, inspirational work, and I hope that you all do tune in and again be inspired as you have been with 12 Faces of Sober.
Okay, and let me know whenever you want me to join the podcast, because I so gotta.
I was already going there, brother. I'm definitely needing you to come on. Okay, we will work that out outside of this.
Yeah, most definitely. And like I said, Martin, I definitely want to say thank you again. Not only from 12 Faces Sober, just as a person who has made numerous mistakes, who got those chances that you just you didn't, and like I said, I am very, very proud that you own up to the mistakes. But not only that, now what you're doing is that you're continuing the legacy of the two that was lost. And that to me is very key and vital in today, because for one, as Black men, out here, we already got that X on our chest and on our back, and we're targets. And regardless of that, we still try to do better. Like I said, I didn't live a perfect life when I was out there drinking all those years, but I know that now I'm not about that. I'm all, like I said, trying to help others, encourage others, be supportive and everything. I mean, I do it every day. You know what I'm saying? And I don't like to be called a sponsor, because of the fact that I don't 100% follow the AA principles. I don't want to go down and list, be like, oh, you got to go to page 145 if you need this help. But I know AA, I've been there. Big shouts out to my sponsor, Marie, that's 84, 85 years old. But I just know what has worked for me, because I failed AA in 2008 when I first went to rehab. And I was just like, and I was drinking every time I would go after I left AA, I was going to drink. And so even though, like, I think last week my sponsor was like, you need to go back to AA. And I said, well, you know what? I said, where I'm at in Georgia right now, they don't have AA. But I said, trust me, I will, in everything. But, this is, wrapping up, the podcast. But I just wanted to say, ladies and gentlemen, that this situation could have been you, it could have been me. But some of us had those chances that Martin didn't get. But he's taking responsibility for those mistakes and actions, but now he's trying to do something better, not only for himself, but to also help others. And I definitely think that is truly key in the sober and recovery community. I will, let me see what it said. And, I feel that, you have a calling today, Martin, and continue to, have that help mentality, strive to, like I said, you telling your truth, you letting people know, okay, this is what certain things look like. I don't think you want that in your life. And that's what ultimately people need to hear. I mean, if you have to scare somebody with the info, do it. You know what I'm saying? Because even with the little, the experiences and stuff that I've went through, is that I'm just like, you know what? I don't even care. I'm just going to tell it like it is, because people need to know and people need to see that. I mean, yes, you can make mistakes, but it's more or less of what you do today to make yourself a better version of yourself tomorrow. And what I'm hearing from you is all about that. And so, like I said, I want to definitely say thank you so much for coming on, bro. And I know this ain't gonna be the last conversation, only because we gonna definitely do some work. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And it's I just feel like this is what the sober community needs
That's right.
is people that truly have those experiences but are trying to better themselves. Like you said, you had your time, but you got the education to prepare yourself when you got out, and now you're giving back. You're giving back to be able to help somebody so that hopefully they don't make that mistake, that they don't go out and party. Now they got Uber. Now they could just break out their phone and request a car to come to their
Right.
to and from wherever they're going. You didn't have that. You could have got a cab, but depending on where you at and what time, if it's a good neighborhood or bad neighborhood, they may not even want to come to your neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's what, this is what it's all it is. I can go on and on and on, but like I said, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you coming on 12 Faces Sober Speaks podcast. It truly means a lot. It's definitely a different perspective that I haven't had on my podcast yet. I know I've had people who've done stints, but the passion in terms of what you're trying to do afterwards is what to me is what it's all about. And so with that, like I said, I thank you again for coming on. I thank you again for sharing your honest and truth. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you pay attention to not one but both parts of this, because I don't think you want to miss a single minute of this, because it definitely has helped me. It's man, it's good. I'm glad you came on, bro. Like I sincerely mean that, because this episode, I got to do some things, but I got to make this one just something totally different, because you gave a lot of insight. And so with that, man, I just want to say, tune in to the next episode of 12 Faces Sober. Martin, thanks again. I appreciate you, man. And like I said, best of luck to you. I don't think you need a whole lot of luck, because you got it. You owning up to it, and now you're trying to make those changes. So before it cuts off, man, I just want to end it there and just thank you for everything. And then, like I said, we'll talk offline. But ladies and gentlemen, this is another episode of 12 Faces of Sober. This is what I do. I'm trying to do the best that I can at what I love now, and I love being sober, and I love having people on here that can help as many people as possible. So with that, this is 12 Faces Sober, and thank you.
Thank